The Zylaxian Observation Committee's flagship, Stellar Scrutiny, hung invisible above Earth's atmosphere, its advanced cloaking technology concealing the crystalline vessel from human detection. Ambassador Krillix, their lead xenosociologist, stared through their compound eyes at the holographic display of ADX Florence, their antennae twitching with increasing confusion. Most peculiar, they chittered to their second-in-command, Director Vextra. The humans have constructed these massive fortified resorts across their planet, yet they seem remarkably selective about their guests. Vextra's iridescent scales shifted colors as they processed the information. Perhaps it's their version of exclusive clubs. Though the security measures seem excessive. The committee had spent 3 Earth months studying these facilities, and each new discovery left them more perplexed. Their latest focus was on what humans called a supermax facility in Colorado. The reinforced concrete walls, multiple security checkpoints, and constant surveillance had initially suggested a military installation. However, the presence of individual living quarters, recreational facilities, and educational programs pointed to something else entirely. Look at these specifications, Krillix continued, manipulating the hologram with their upper appendages. Each guest receives a private chamber with basic amenities. They're provided with 3 nutritionally balanced meals daily. There's even a designated period for physical exercise. And they call this punishment. Vextra's scales rippled with disbelief. That's what continues to baffle us, Krillix responded, pulling up more data streams. According to our intercepted communications, humans consider this one of their harshest forms of confinement. Yet by Zylaxian standards, these accommodations would qualify as a moderate luxury retreat. The observation chamber filled with other committee members, each bringing their own specialized perspective to the puzzle. Dr. Zira, their behavioral analyst, floated forward on their anti-gravity disc. I've been studying the psychological patterns of the residents. They hummed, their bioluminescent spots pulsing with excitement. Despite the humans classifying this as a punitive system, many of the inhabitants show remarkable personal growth. They pursue education, develop new skills, and maintain physical fitness routines. Could we be misinterpreting their definition of punishment? Asked security specialist Mix, their crystalline form refracting light, as they moved closer to the displays. Krillix's antennae straightened with determination. There's only one way to find out. We need to conduct a closer investigation. The Galactic Council requires a thorough understanding of human correctional philosophies before considering their application for membership. Are you suggesting we reveal ourselves? Vextra's scales shifted to a worried purple. Not exactly, Krillix replied, their compound eyes gleaming with what passed for a smile in their species. I've already submitted a proposal to the Council. We'll be posing as an international consulting firm, specializing in correctional facility assessment. The humans are remarkably open to external audits of their institutions. The committee members exchanged glances, their various appendages and sensory organs expressing a mixture of excitement and apprehension. This would be their first direct interaction with humans, and it would happen in what appeared to be one of Earth's most secure and mysterious environments. Prepare the morphic disguise units, Krillix ordered. We'll need to look perfectly human for this operation. And remember, we must approach this with complete cultural sensitivity. If humans consider these accommodations challenging, we must respect that, no matter how comfortable they appear to us. As the committee dispersed to begin their preparations, Krillix remained at the observation window, watching the facility below. Somewhere in this puzzle of concrete and steel lay the key to understanding one of humanity's most intriguing contradictions. Either humans were the most resilient species they'd ever encountered, or there was something about these prisons that their alien perspectives couldn't quite grasp. Little did they know, their investigation was about to trigger a series of events that would redefine interstellar cultural relations and possibly create the galaxy's most unusual tourist destination. The morning sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of ADX Florence as a sleek black SUV pulled up to the main gate. Inside, Ambassador Krillix adjusted their human disguise one final time, ensuring their antennae were properly concealed beneath a perfectly coiffed head of gray hair. Beside them, Vextra, now appearing as a tall human woman in a crisp business suit, double-checked their credentials. "Remember," Krillix whispered, their voice modulated to sound human, "we're from the International Correctional Facility Assessment Board. Dr. Carl Xavier and Dr. Victoria Tran, at your service." The guard at the gate examined their meticulously forged credentials with professional scrutiny. "Everything seems in order. Dr. Xavier, Warden Martinez is expecting you." As they were escorted through multiple security checkpoints, Krillix's compound eyes, now disguised as human ones, recorded everything. The massive steel doors, the sophisticated surveillance systems, the armed guards, it all pointed to an incredibly exclusive establishment. "Remarkable attention to security," they muttered to Vextra. "Clearly, these accommodations are highly sought after." Warden Alina Martinez met them in her office, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper intellect. "Welcome to ADX Florence, doctors. I understand you're here to assess our facilities and procedures." "Indeed," Krillix replied, trying to maintain their human facade while their antennae strained against their disguise in excitement. "We're particularly interested in your guest satisfaction metrics." The warden's eyebrow rose slightly. "Guest satisfaction? You mean inmate rehabilitation programs?" Yes, of course." Vextra jumped in smoothly. "We're especially keen to observe your luxury. I mean living accommodations." What followed was a tour that left the disguised aliens increasingly baffled. Each new observation seemed to contradict their understanding of human comfort. The cells, which they insisted on calling private suites in their notes, were sparse by any species standards. Yet the humans had gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure their security. These reinforced concrete walls must be for sound isolation, Krillix suggested hopefully as they examined a cell. "To ensure peaceful meditation." Warden Martinez stared at them for a long moment. "They're to prevent escape attempts, Dr. Xavier." "Escape?" Vextra's human disguise briefly flickered with confusion. But why would anyone want to escape from such a structured environment? The warden's expression grew increasingly puzzled as her visitors continued to make bizarre observations and suggestions throughout the tour. They seemed oddly impressed by the exercise yard, with its high walls and guard towers. Outdoor recreation with constant supervision for safety, Krillix noted enthusiastically in their datapad. Though perhaps the armed guards are excessive for monitoring physical fitness. When they reached the cafeteria during lunch service, Vextra's disguise nearly malfunctioned entirely from excitement. "Look at the efficiency. Everyone eating the same nutritionally balanced meals at designated times. No need to waste mental energy on food choices." "And the matching uniforms," Krillix added. "Orange must be Earth's most prestigious color for leisure wear." Warden Martinez watched as her strange visitors cooed over security measures and mistook basic amenities for luxury features. By the time they reached the solitary confinement units, she was beginning to wonder if she was being filmed for some bizarre reality show. "This is our most secure unit," she explained, watching their reactions carefully. "For our most difficult cases." "Ah," Krillix exclaimed, peering into a solitary cell. "Private meditation chambers, though they seem rather austere for premium accommodations." "Premium? Dr. Xavier, this is punishment, not a spa retreat." Of course, Krillix agreed quickly, sharing a knowing look with Vextra. Clearly, the humans were very committed to maintaining the narrative of punishment. How fascinating. Back in the warden's office, Krillix and Vextra prepared to deliver their preliminary findings. Their excitement was barely containable, causing occasional glitches in their human disguises that they hoped the warden would attribute to poor lighting. "Warden Martinez," Krillix began, "we are thoroughly impressed by your establishment. The security measures alone must consume significant resources, though perhaps the guard towers could be repurposed as observation decks for astronomical contemplation." And the isolation cells, Vextra added. Have you considered adding meditation cushions to enhance the solitary reflection experience? Warden Martinez leaned back in her chair, pinching the bridge of her nose. Doctors, I need to be very clear about something. This is a supermax prison. We house the most dangerous criminals in the country. This isn't a wellness retreat. Oh, naturally, Krillix replied with what they thought was a knowing wink, but their human disguise rendered it as more of a facial spasm. We completely understand the need to maintain the punitive atmosphere, though we would recommend some minor improvements, perhaps some motivational posters in the cell blocks, or therapeutic coloring books for the solitary reflection chambers. As they left the facility, Krillix and Vextra were already composing their report to the Galactic Council. Their SUV had barely cleared the final checkpoint when their human disguises began to fade, revealing their excitement in their natural forms. Remarkable, Krillix chittered. The humans have created a system so psychologically sophisticated that they've convinced their comfort-seeking citizens to view basic amenities as punishment. But what does it tell us about human resilience? Vextra wondered, their scales shifting through thoughtful colors. To consider such comfortable conditions as hardship. Neither of them noticed Warden Martinez watching their departing vehicle, her phone in hand as she debated whether to report the strange series of light distortions she'd seen around her visitors' forms. After a moment, she put the phone away. Some things, she decided, were better left unexamined. The Galactic Council's emergency session chamber was packed to capacity. Representatives from 17 different species crowded the crystalline amphitheater, their varied forms creating a kaleidoscope of colors, textures, and dimensional distortions. At the center podium, Ambassador Krillix prepared to present their findings on Earth's correctional resort system. Esteemed colleagues, they began, their antennae quivering with barely contained excitement, our investigation of human psychological resilience has yielded extraordinary results. We present to you the Earth Luxury Containment Initiative. The holographic display activated, showing images of various maximum security prisons across Earth. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembly. As you can see, Vextra continued, their scales shimmering with professional pride. Humans have developed an ingenious system of character-building retreats. They've somehow convinced their citizens that comfortable accommodations and structured routines constitute punishment. Supreme Counselor Zithrix, a being composed primarily of ionized gas, condensed thoughtfully. Are you suggesting we implement similar facilities in our own systems? Even better, Krillix announced, their compound eyes gleaming. We propose a cultural exchange program. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. Among the council members, Dr. Zura's bioluminescent spots pulsed with concern. You want to send our citizens to Earth's facilities? Precisely. Krillix manipulated the holographic display, showing more prison imagery. Think of it as an immersive cultural experience. We'll select volunteers from our rehabilitation programs to experience Earth's unique approach firsthand. Meanwhile, on Earth, Warden Martinez was having a very unusual morning. She stared at the official-looking document on her desk, then at the string of increasingly bizarre emails from various government agencies. Let me get this straight, she said to her assistant. We've been selected for an international cultural exchange program. With participants from where exactly? The documentation is a bit vague on that point, ma'am, her assistant admitted. But it has all the proper authorizations. They're arriving next week. The following Tuesday, Warden Martinez stood in the prison's receiving area, watching as the strangest group of international consultants she'd ever seen cleared security. Their human disguises were better than last time, but something was still off about them. Welcome to ADX Florence, she greeted them, trying not to stare at one consultant whose hair seemed to be slowly changing color. Though I must admit, this is an unusual situation. We are most grateful for this opportunity, exclaimed the apparent leader, who had introduced himself as Dr. K.X. Zylax. Our rehabilitation candidates are very excited to experience your character-building accommodations. Martinez looked at the group of rehabilitation candidates being processed. One of them seemed to be hovering slightly above the ground, while another's shadow was definitely not matching their movements. Now, Dr. Zolax continued enthusiastically about our suggested improvements. We've brought some items we consider essential for the full experience. They proceeded to unpack what they called standard comfort minimization supplies. Martinez watched in bewilderment as they presented items that looked suspiciously like luxury spa equipment. "This is a standard meditation cushion," Zylax explained, holding up something that pulsed with a soft light. "Though we've modified it to be appropriately uncomfortable by human standards. And these are what we call temporal awareness devices." He displayed what appeared to be a set of crystalline watches that occasionally phased through solid matter. "Dr. Zylax," Martinez interrupted, "I need to be very clear about something. This is a federal maximum security prison, not a—" "Yes, of course." Zylax nodded vigorously, their neck moving slightly more than it should. "We completely understand the need to maintain the illusion of punishment. Your commitment to the concept is admirable." Over the next few weeks, the prison staff watched in confusion as their strange new inmates seemed to treat their incarceration like a luxury retreat. They organized what they called collective meditation sessions in the yard, though the guards could have sworn some participants were floating. The cafeteria became a hot spot for what they termed gustatory endurance training, with the visitors expressing enthusiastic appreciation for the bland prison food. Most disturbing were the rehabilitation candidates in solitary confinement, who could be heard humming in perfect harmony through the solid concrete walls. The maintenance staff kept getting called to investigate reports of mysterious lights and occasional dimensional distortions in their cells, only to find everything apparently normal upon inspection. In the prison library, one of the visitors was causing particular confusion. They had started a book club that somehow managed to discuss books that weren't actually in the library's collection, including some titles that sounded suspiciously like Time-Space Manipulation for Beginners and Understanding Human Punishment, A Tourist's Guide. By the third week, Martinez found herself regularly checking her coffee for hallucinogens. The incident reports on her desk were becoming increasingly surreal. One guard swore he saw an inmate phase through a wall, only to return moments later complaining that the dimensional alignment was off. Another reported that the new inmate's shadow puppetry session had produced actual shadow creatures that performed Shakespeare. In her office, Martinez reviewed the latest report from Dr. Zolax, which praised the prison's innovative approach to spiritual growth through artificial environmental constraints. The report included several suggestions for improvement, including the installation of quantum meditation chambers and psychic dampening fields to enhance the isolation experience. As she stared out her office window at a group of rehabilitation candidates performing what they claimed was traditional earth yoga, though she was pretty sure normal yoga didn't involve temporary levitation, Martinez came to a conclusion. Either she was losing her mind, or the international correctional system was much stranger than she'd ever imagined. The Zylaxian Correctional Enhancement Facility gleamed in the triple moonlight of Proxima VI, its crystalline towers and quantum-locked courtyards, modeled after Earth's most successful punishment architecture. Ambassador Krillix stood proudly before the assembled Galactic press corps, their antennae trembling with excitement as they prepared to unveil the galaxy's first human-inspired rehabilitation center. "Behold," they announced, gesturing with all three sets of appendages, "the future of galactic corrections. We have meticulously recreated the harsh conditions of Earth's character-building institutions." The facility was a bizarre fusion of alien technology and misunderstood human prison concepts. Each punishment suite featured what Krillix described as deliberately uncomfortable amenities: gravity-defying beds adjusted to Earth normal conditions, replication units limited to producing only Earth prison menu items, and entertainment systems restricted to basic quantum reality programming. "Note the authentic orange attire," Vextra added, displaying the facility's uniforms, which somehow managed to glow in the dark and occasionally phase through solid matter. We've even incorporated the human's curious practice of designated eating times, though we've had to adjust for species that exist in multiple temporal states simultaneously. The first group of guests had arrived that morning. Various offenders from across the galaxy, sentenced to experience what the brochure called enhanced character development through human-inspired comfort reduction. Their reactions were not quite what the facility's designers had expected. "This is punishment?" asked a crystalline being convicted of unauthorized molecular restructuring. They lounged in their cell's quantum field, flipping through a copy of Earth Sports Illustrated that the facility had replicated based on intercepted broadcasts. The gravity here is practically luxurious. In the exercise yard, carefully designed to recreate the austere conditions of Earth's prison yards, a group of energy beings had started a game of what they thought was basketball. The fact that several players existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously had required some creative rule modifications. Dr. Zira, now serving as the facility's chief psychological observer, floated through the corridors on their anti-gravity disk, making notes on their quantum pad. Most fascinating, they hummed to themselves. The subjects appear to be responding positively to the environmental constraints. Perhaps the humans are onto something with this punishment through structured routine concept. The facility's recreation room had become particularly popular, despite, or perhaps because of, the staff's attempts to make it appropriately restrictive by Earth standards. The multi-dimensional chess sets, limited to only 4 dimensions instead of the usual 12, were in constant use. The quantum library, stocked with what they believed to be standard Earth prison reading material, had accidentally included several physics textbooks from the year 2157 due to a temporal filing error. In the cafeteria, designed to recreate the harsh conditions of Earth prison dining, the chef, a gaseous entity named Blorp, struggled to maintain the appropriate level of culinary deprivation. How can I make the food both nutritionally complete and unappetizing? They bubbled frustratedly. It's a fundamental contradiction. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Warden Martinez was reviewing a very unusual proposal that had somehow made its way through official channels. The document, entitled Application for Sister Facility Status, included blueprints for what appeared to be a prison designed by someone who had only ever heard prisons described by an overenthusiastic science fiction author. "They want to install what in the exercise yard?" she muttered, squinting at the specifications for something called a temporal physical enhancement zone. Her phone rang. Another call from Dr. Zulax. "Warden Martinez, wonderful news. Our first facility, based on your excellent model, is already showing unprecedented rehabilitation rates. Though we may have failed to properly replicate the harshness of your conditions, our guests seem to be enjoying themselves far too much." Martinez stared out her window at the prison yard, where the last group of international exchange inmates was teaching the regular prisoners something they claimed was traditional meditation, but looked suspiciously like low-gravity yoga. One participant appeared to be briefly existing in 3 places at once. "Dr. Zylax," she began carefully, "I think there might be some cultural misunderstandings we need to address." "Absolutely," Zylax interrupted enthusiastically. "We clearly need to make our facility more austere. Perhaps we should reduce the quantum field stability to match Earth normal levels, or limit the temporal shifting to only 2 dimensions. Before Martinez could respond, she heard a commotion in the background on Zylax's end. "Oh dear," they said, "I have to go. Some of our guests are complaining that their meditation cushions aren't uncomfortable enough. They're demanding the authentic Earth prison experience." As the call ended, Martinez opened her desk drawer and pulled out the incident report she'd been working on for the past month. At the top, she'd written, "Either I'm losing my mind, or..." She looked at the growing stack of bizarre reports, requisition requests for quantum-stabilized orange jumpsuits, and complaints about inmates who kept accidentally phasing through walls during rec time. With a sigh, she added a new line to her report. "Success rate of rehabilitation program, 100%. Method, Unknown, possibly involving violation of known laws of physics. Somewhere in the universe, the Galactic Corrections Board was already planning their next facility, complete with what they called authentic Earth-style security measures, which somehow included both armed guards and quantum entanglement fields. The brochure would later describe it as the ultimate in human-inspired character enhancement through strategic comfort reduction. The waiting list was already 3 light-years long. The ultimate guide to Earth's luxury containment experiences became an overnight sensation across 17 galaxies. Ambassador Krillix's comprehensive review of human correctional facilities had somehow turned Earth's prison system into the hottest tourist destination in the known universe. The Galactic Tourism Board's main office was in chaos. Floating screens displayed an endless stream of booking requests from various species, all eager to experience what the guide called humanity's most austere pleasure retreats. The review had gone viral faster than a quantum plague. Listen to this. Director Vextra read from their datapad. Their scales shifting to amused purple. Experience the ultimate in human endurance training. Live like the remarkably resilient Earthlings in their specialized character-building retreats. Features include regulated mealtimes, mandatory physical enhancement periods, and the exotic concept of solitary contemplation chambers. In her office at ADX Florence, Warden Martinez was having the worst migraine of her career. The stack of interstellar booking requests on her desk had grown so large it was developing its own gravitational field. Her phone hadn't stopped ringing for weeks. "No, we cannot accommodate temporal tourists," she explained for the 100th time that day. "I don't care if they exist in multiple time streams simultaneously. This is a federal prison, not a, what do you mean they're willing to pay in dark matter?" The situation had escalated beyond anyone's control. Alien tourists had begun showing up at prisons worldwide, their human disguises becoming increasingly questionable. One group at Sing Sing was clearly a collection of sentient gas clouds wearing trench coats. At Alcatraz, the gift shop was now selling authentic prison jumpsuits with built-in quantum stabilizers. The final straw came during the annual International Corrections Convention in Geneva. What should have been a routine conference about rehabilitation strategies had turned into an interstellar tourism expo. Ambassador Krillix, still maintaining their increasingly glitchy human disguise as Dr. Carl Xavier, was the keynote speaker. And so, they concluded their presentation. "We rate Earth's correctional system as a 6-star experience. The humans have masterfully created an environment so challenging that it qualifies as luxury accommodation for 94% of known sentient species." The human delegates sat in stunned silence as Krillix displayed holographic reviews from satisfied guests across the galaxy. The restricted movement periods were delightfully novel. "As a being of pure energy, I've never experienced such charming physical limitations. A stellar entity from the Crab Nebula. The concept of timeout in a confined space is fascinating. My quantum consciousness felt so focused. A multi-dimensional tourist from dimension X742. Earth food deliberately made to be bland. Brilliant. My taste buds, all 7,000 of them, were pleasantly understimulated. A gastro-cosmic entity." It was during the queue and a session that things finally fell apart. One of Krillix's antennae broke free from their disguise, just as a member of their survey team accidentally phased through the podium. The room erupted in chaos as dozens of human attendees suddenly experienced catastrophic disguise failures. Warden Martinez, sitting in the front row, just sighed and pulled out her phone to update her increasingly surreal incident report. At this point, she figured, they might as well lean into it. The prison's budget could certainly use an injection of exotic matter currency. In the aftermath, the United Nations hastily convened a special session to draft the Interstellar Correctional Tourism Guidelines. Key points included: no quantum tunneling during lockdown, time manipulation restricted to approved visiting hours, multi-dimensional beings must occupy only one dimension at a time, No transmutation of prison food into exotic matter. Gravity must remain consistent with Earth normal standards. All tentacles, appendages, and extra-dimensional limbs must be accounted for during head count. The document was immediately translated into 47,000 languages, including several that existed outside conventional spacetime. Meanwhile, Ambassador Krillix had become something of a celebrity in the galactic hospitality industry. Their book, Understanding Human Hardship, a guide to Earth's most exclusive retreats, was topping the charts in every sector of civilized space. The chapter on the mysterious appeal of orange jumpsuits was particularly popular. The Galactic Council, in their infinite wisdom, decided to officially classify Earth's prison system as a uniquely human cultural experience. This designation came with a special note. Warning: humans genuinely consider this punishment. Do not attempt to explain why it isn't. Cultural sensitivity recommended. Back at ADX Florence, Warden Martinez had finally embraced the absurdity of her situation. She'd even allowed the installation of a small gift shop, quantum shielded of course, selling authentic prison memorabilia to interdimensional tourists. The I Survived Earth's harshest luxury resort t-shirts were particularly popular, especially since they existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously. As she watched a group of disguised aliens being processed for their authentic Earth prison experience, Martinez reflected on the strange turn her career had taken. The facility's rehabilitation rates had mysteriously skyrocketed, something about the presence of higher dimensional beings having an unexpectedly calming effect on the human inmates. The budget was healthier than ever thanks to cosmic currency exchanges, and they'd won the Galactic Tourism Board's Most Authentically Challenging Experience award 3 years running. She picked up a brochure that had materialized on her desk, apparently through quantum tunneling. The cover read, Earth's Prison System, where one species' punishment is the galaxy's favorite vacation. Well, she muttered to herself, watching as a new group of tourists tried to figure out how to wear orange jumpsuits over their ethereal forms. At least the paperwork is never boring. Somewhere in the universe, the Galactic Council was already planning their next cultural exchange program. They'd heard something fascinating about human establishments called DMVs and were eager to investigate what kind of luxury experiences those might be.